Welcome aboard, Raider Nation. All right. Well, a lot to talk about today. Again, we didn't come on Friday. There were some technical difficulties. I was hoping to have Watts Raider on, but we had some problems that had to be dealt with. So, here we are once again today. So, tough loss against the Kansas City Chiefs. A lot of people are talking right now. A lot of things being said, I think really prematurely. I mean, I'm not sure if it's just the Raiders or if there are other teams out there that are experiencing very similar things. If they have a loss, no matter what their record is, teams start people start automatically like, oh God, they gave up the AFC West. Well, not really. What they did was they allowed a team in their division basically to sweep them. But their record is good enough, and in fact, they're tied with that particular football team, and there are still 3 games left to be played. So I scratch my head when I hear some of these people, some of these journalists and different types of people. Now, some of them, of course, you can look back at, I have no idea why, but the Bay Area seems to bring in reporters that aren't necessarily fans of the football team that they happen to be covering. And Anne Killian is one of those types of people. She wrote an article, well, now the Raiders are going to have to earn their way into the playoffs. Well, everybody's still trying to earn their way into the playoffs. Right now, the Patriots, depending on what they do tonight, are going to have to earn their way into the playoffs. They're going to have to keep on winning. It's not over. Today, Thursday wasn't the end point. And so everyone is going to have to continue to earn their way into the playoffs. There are 3 games left. The Chiefs just lost a very big piece to that defense that everybody keeps saying is the only reason that we're putting them into the category of potential Super Bowl winner is because of the fact that they have that defense. Well, now that Johnson is out, that defense, particularly the middle of that defense, may not be as stout as it was before. We saw what happened with Denver when Denver started losing pieces in the middle of their particular defense. We, in fact, saw in this game what happened when they started losing pieces to that defense. So once again, I think it's entirely too early, but I just wanted to kind of look at it. I want to get to Shannon Sharp. It's so easy. He says things every single day that I just, he was just so like, no, the Raiders lost, and I so wanted to get to that on Friday. I wanted to get to it today, but there's just not enough time in the day. And then stories like the one that we're going to talk about pop up. So let's go ahead here and take a look at what Anne Killian says. You don't think it was going to be that easy, do you? Why, yes, Anne, we actually did. But the Raiders could leap from 0 playoffs and 14 seasons to clinch the AFC West title. All right, that they could starve for more than a decade and then get dunked in a vat of chocolate truffles? I don't know. Who knows? What happened Thursday night in Frigid Arrowhead Stadium was monumentous and potentially season-changing. Well, since we're still in the season, it doesn't really matter, does it? The season is still in flux. What isn't season-changing? There was a point where we were number 1 in the division, then we went to the 5th seed, then we were knocked, all of a sudden we were back in potential to have home field advantage and the best record in all of football, all during a bye week. So, to kind of, again, sit here and say, this could alter the season. Well, tonight could alter the season. Monday night's game could alter the season. The game against the Chargers obviously could alter the season. Tennessee, with that strong running game, going and playing against Kansas City could alter the season. So many things could alter the season. What Pittsburgh did altered the season. So again, when I hear these types of things, I just scratch my head like, wait a minute, what week is this again? Because she's making it sound like that was it. They blew it. Now they're really going to have, they're going to need this team to lose and that team to lose. And there are 3 games to be played. We're tied with the team that basically just swept us. That's about it. And she even goes on to talk about some different things. But again, when you start to look at it, is it possible for a team, forget the playoff drought, because there were two 8-8 football teams that were very close, and the personnel on those teams has changed. The personnel on the 2003 team, the 2004 team, they've all changed. It's not like you've got a team of guys that for the last 14 years, I think Sebastian Janikowski would be it. He's the only guy on there that you'd have to be like, Jano, you don't think you're going to the playoffs, do you? It's been 14 years, Jano. Nobody cares about that, right? This is a different football team. So instead, let's look, is it possible for a 7-9 football team to potentially go to the playoffs or into the Super Bowl? Or even, again, a 4-12 team, or whatever numbers that you're looking at. Is it crazy? Well, what about the 2008 Dolphins, right? They were able to win only one game and then win their division the following year. They won one game and then they won their division, the following year. The 2004 Chargers. What about the 2000? No playoff appearances in 9 years. Again, I don't know how much that matters as opposed to how many games you've won over the last few years. So I think it's more important, just because of continuity, the players, things like that you look at a 2 or 3 year period as opposed to looking at a 14-year period. It just makes no sense at all whatsoever. The ownership is different, the coaches are different, and 99.999% of the players are different. The Bengals, the 88 Bengals, they went to the Super Bowl with Boomer Esiason, right, after going 4-12 the season before. So can it be easy? And there are several other examples. There are tons of examples of worst to first football teams that went from worst to division leaders. Tons of examples. It's not a situation that it can't be done. It's never been done. There's no way that you'll break the 6-minute mile, right? It can be done. And then once it's done, it gets done by a series of teams. But let's look at what else she says here. But it's probably also a good thing. A failed test against a good opponent for a young team that had begun to think themselves invincible late in games after getting by with sloppy first half play way too often. And, on this point, I will agree. I don't think it's necessarily sloppy. I think it's the offensive game plan. We are literally going to attack all positions of the field. We're going to throw the ball behind the line of scrimmage. We're going to throw the ball under the chains. We're going to get our playmakers to get yards after the catch. We're going to spar with you for a little bit, and then when it comes down to it, we're going to turn it on, and when it really comes down to it, we're going to make those plays. And we've been able to do that. So I don't know why it's like, oh, they think they're invincible. Who thinks they're invincible? Who is it that you've been talking to? Is it Derek Carr? Is he coming up all fashioned out with the glasses and the bling, like, yeah, we knew we were going to do it. We don't fear anybody. No, that's not who. It's you guys. It's you guys. It's the people in the media that want people to believe that this football team thinks that they're invincible. They don't think that they're invincible. They're just learning to win together, right? With one 8-point loss to Kansas City, the Raiders slipped from having full control over their tough division, being the top seed in the AFC and getting a first-round bye, down to the 5th seed in the AFC and looking at a first-round playoff game on the road. That could be the difference between a long run in the playoffs and a quick exit, but it is also the expected path for young, untested football teams. The Raiders have been living on the edge all season, falling behind and relying on late-season heroics to carry the day. It caught up with them in Kansas City. By the way, that all could change Sunday, right? I mean, again, I look at this article and I'm just thinking to myself, like, why? I'm not exactly sure. There's 3 games left. If Kansas City somehow loses to, Tennessee, who beat Denver, if the Raiders were to go to, an unhostile type of environment like San Diego, where there'll be more Raider fans, only a 45-minute travel, and excellent weather conditions, and they bounce back the way they've bounced back all season after a loss, then this could all change again. And by the way, if the Patriots lose to the Baltimore Ravens tonight, this could all change. It could all change again. And we'll be doing the same thing that we're doing right now. And what is the article going to read next week? Oh, I was wrong? Absolutely not. It's not going to have anything to do with that. It's going to be, Derek Carr back in MVP consideration. These Raiders, they won't be denied. They continue to come back after tough losses and, XYZ. This cold weather stuff, all the things that they're talking about at this point, is just ridiculous. They've had one cold weather game, and now it's their Achilles heel. Here's the interesting part, this next portion. This is what she probably should have started off with and said, hey, you know what, tough game, but, this is a resilient team, and they're probably still going to, get the job done. Again, they've got a very, they've got 10 days to prepare for an opponent and to heal, only 45 minutes to travel. The weather is going to be really good, and there will probably be more Raider fans there than there will be Charger fans, since Charger fans have nothing to go to this game for, right? Instead of going through all that and then saying they've got a cult team in Oakland, again, nice warm weather, and and then finally having to go after a couple of weeks to play a very, very, very difficult Denver football team. Instead, she starts it off the way that she started it off, which is pure garbage. But let's take a look here again. While the game was disheartening because of the offensive struggles, it was not the disaster that some portrayed. Some like who? Some like the sky is falling and now the Raiders are going to have to earn their way into the playoffs and that's altered the season and all these things are going wrong. And, come on. Again, the loss was the Raiders' first on the road all season. It came on a short week in freezing temperature in perhaps the league's most difficult playing environment. With a quarterback who had an injured finger, right? And, an offense that had to be whittled down and, all of these different things that were going on. And we still almost won this football game. The Raiders were missing 3 starters, including left tackle Kelechi Osemele, who apparently came down with a kind of stomach problems that the team was fearful of suffering in Mexico City. Derek Carr, no matter what he says, appeared to be hampered by his injured finger as his usually accurate passes floated away from his intended targets, and his inability to line up under center limited the play calling options. Despite all that, the Raiders were still in position for one of their come-from-behind wins that they've been doing too much now, mind you. They've been living on the edge way too long. But they almost still did it here with all those things that she just said, all this stuff that she's talking about here, and they still almost did it, right? Oh, goodness. And there were promising signs. Latavius Murray rushed for more than 100 yards, and the Raiders defense did a good job containing the Chiefs' running game. Those are 2 areas that needed to improve, and they did. Okay, and like I said, if you look at that and then you look at the fact that now they've got some time to heal, they're going to be playing in a very, very amicable environment for the next 2 weeks, San Diego and Oakland. And then they've got a tough game against Denver, but hopefully by that time that pinky finger is in a better spot. We know now we have got to run the ball. We know that was the success that we had against Denver when we played them the first time. We watched as the Tennessee Titans did that just yesterday. It is obviously what we need to do. I think it's not going to be a short week. I think we're going to go in there and we're going to beat Denver. And that's going to be that. So, once again, I find myself so often, and again, I'm not sure if it's just the Raiders at this point, if teams just really don't want the Raiders to win. Because like I said, I watched Shannon Sharpe, and he was so giddy. He was so giddy that the Raiders lost. He wanted, and you kind of sit there and you say, hey, that's too, I don't think that did I like the fact that Tennessee beat the Broncos, absolutely. They're in our division. I want them to lose. Do I like Tennessee winning? No, not necessarily. Am I going to get super giddy over it? No, it helped us out. That's about it. This guy, this character was giddy. I mean, he's, oh no, Skip, no. And I was just like, wow, you want us to lose more than you want your team to win. You want the Raiders to lose more than you want the Denver Broncos to win. That's sick. That's a sickness. And you should look at it and you should understand, you know what? That's negative karma. My team is probably not going to be able to do what I wanted to do if all I'm doing is focusing on these dudes losing, right? So, again, it could just be the Raiders. I don't know. There could be other teams out there that have had the type of drought that we have, but there is certainly a disturbance that's going on. People don't know what to do. The people in the media don't know what to do. They want to anoint us as the best team in football. They want to say that we're just a charlatan. They want to say Derek Carr's the MVP. They want to turn around and say, why was that guy even involved in the conversation? They want to give Del Rio credit, but then they want to take it away. They want to say that this is a good, well-rounded football team that has a chance. It's exciting, and it's just learning how to win. But then they want to say that when the temperature drops below 20 degrees, they pack up and go home. Folks, they played till the end of the game. They continued to play. They continued to fight. They were hampered. There was a lot of stuff that went into that, and we're going to talk about that when we come back. I want to break down some of the things that occurred. And again, they're all there in Killian's article. If you really look at it, instead of talking about all of those things and looking and saying, well, these are all the problems, we should probably look at them and say, well, if these things aren't in our way heading forward, if we can get past these things, I don't think there's anything potentially that can stop us. And I think that we should be in that conversation in terms of being a Super Bowl caliber football team. We are going to the playoffs. That much is almost assured. So we've got one more week to go. If we beat San Diego, we're in. And then from that point on, the discussion is going to have to change about how far we can go and what we can do and where we're going to be at. But to come up at this point and just get so excited, so flustered about a game with all of those variables going against you, and just be like, oh, now the sky's nope, folks, they're 10-3. They're going to the playoffs. All right, we'll be right back.
Carpets is celebrating the holidays with a huge inventory clearance sale. We have the best prices and guaranteed installation. Why would you buy anywhere else? Whether you're looking for laminate, vinyl, carpet, tile, or wood, we have it all. Save up to 50% on selected items. Room-size rugs, only $69. Visit Carpets at one of our 6 Bay Area locations or call us at 1-800-355-4MMM.
All right, welcome back, folks. As promised, I just kind of wanted to get into that game. I didn't want to break it down in terms of numbers and things like that. I just kind of wanted to look again at sort of what happened in that game and why I don't think that what happened in that game is most likely going to continue on. It's going to continue to occur down the season. I don't think what you saw in that game is going to happen in Denver. I don't think what you saw in that game is probably going to happen in Baltimore or in New England or anywhere else. There was just a series of things that occurred in that particular game, again, that I just don't think are going to happen anywhere else. And I want to go back. None of these are excuses, by the way. I just want to look at a couple of things and just kind of have an overall idea, not the statistics of what occurred, not the number of yards, not the passing yards, not the drops, not any of those types of things, but just sort of what happened behind the scenes to, I think, culminate in what happened there on Thursday. So again, one of the first things that I was looking at was travel. And I understand that if you're on the West Coast, just based on logistics, you're going to be traveling farther than anyone else. If you're in Seattle, Arizona, Oakland, San Diego, now the Los Angeles Rams, if they had stayed in Kansas City, their flight schedule, their travel miles would have been so greatly reduced, but they moved to Los Angeles. And so now, they've got to fly back and forth all over the place. So again, teams on the West Coast generally are going to fly much farther because of the cluster in the Midwest and then the Eastern cluster of football teams. There's so much more space between them. So you're talking about all kinds of travel time. You're talking about a football team that over the last 3 years was number 1 in travel, number 3 in travel, and now number 2 in travel in the league. So this is an extremely travel team. We talked about the wear and tear of this team playing in some games where they controlled the ball for an abnormal period of time. So again, it's a football team that has played a lot. The starting units generally have played a lot of minutes. So when you look at it, you see a lot of guys in the 80 to 90% snap ratio, which again shows that while you may have depth, you're not necessarily using that depth. You're keeping a lot of guys in because you really feel like those are the guys that can execute what it is that you're trying to do. So again, we're looking at a team that's really traveled, including going to Mexico. They wanted us to go back and forth to Florida, which we didn't. And you just kind of look at that and you say, okay, this is a team that's going to start toward the end of the season. It's going to start catching up with them, right? Just like college football. And again, there's not much we can do about that. If you're on the West Coast, you're going to be traveling, but that's one factor. The second factor, again, like we talked about before, we gave Andy Reid a couple of weeks to prepare for us the first time. So he got in extra time, like it or not, to prepare against the Raiders. I don't think you should ever give a team within your division a bye week. I just think that that's wrong. Just as wrong as, say, forcing you to play a conference opponent that's on your schedule that particular year, like they did with the Tennessee Titans. So I'm going to keep going back and harping on that because it's important. Because again, we could play the Tennessee Titans again in the playoffs, meaning we could play the Tennessee Titans 3 times this season. That's just ridiculous, right? Playing a team in your own division 3 times in a season is hard enough. Now you're throwing in a conference opponent. So you look at those two things. You look at a lot of travel. And then you look at basically giving a team in your division a couple of weeks to prepare for you. So they just have another week or so to kind of sit down and look at your tendencies and what you're doing. Then it just so happened that we had to play that same team at home on a short week. So again, travel is going to affect some of those things, the weather, the conditions, the environment, all of those things, just like Anne Killians said, were factors in that football game. So again, a little bit unfair, in my opinion. You gave them a bye. Basically, if you're going to do that, we should be playing them on a short week at home. Then you look at offensively the injuries. So you got Assemila's out, which means part of your offensive line is out. You've got your strong safety is out. Even though he's a rookie, he's been doing a really good job, and he helps out. He would have helped out with Kelsey. They would have been able to combine him and do some different things with him, I think, than they were able to do with Nate Allen out there. So you got a few guys that don't come to play. They're starters, right? The middle of the interior of your defensive line, but they were still able to do some really good things. But what I really want to talk about is Derek Carr's injury. So the injury to his pinky thumb. Once you decide that you're going to play completely 100% from the shotgun, you eliminate at least 50% of your running game right out the window. It doesn't matter. Probably more than 50%. 65% of your running game goes out the window. Now you can just kind of do some of these quick draws, inside draws, things of that nature. Maybe some draws to the outside, but the bread and butter runs that we were running with the pulling guards and all of these different types of things that we were doing, those were just immediately taken out of the playbook. And again, those are our bread and butter. We were forced to do a lot of inside zone plays, a lot of inside draw plays, things of that nature. And again, Latavius Murray did a fine job with that, but it wasn't something that we could continue to just pound at them. They knew that it was coming. They knew where it was coming. They knew that they had to defend it. And, we didn't do enough so that really was what hurt them. They were able to sit back and say, we can allow this to happen. So once you go all in shotgun for the majority of your time, 100% of your snaps, again, you eliminate 65% of what you can do. Because the finger is dislocated, maybe has a hairline fracture in it. I don't know. They say he doesn't use his pinky, whatever. He couldn't get any velocity on that football. So once you say, okay, we're going to keep him in there and he can't get any velocity on the football, you begin to eliminate a lot of the routes in your passing tree, the comebacks, the quick outs, the hitches, all of these different types of plays, including some of Amari Cooper's double move types of plays. They're not going to work anymore. Why? Because he's got to get the ball up. He just didn't have the pop on it. You cannot throw a lob on a comeback. It just doesn't work that way. You've got to throw it low into the outside so that as we see the receivers come back, slide to the ground, and they catch it. Also, timing. So now what you're doing is you're saying this quarterback and all the times that they've practiced these particular routes, now this guy can't throw the ball a certain way, which means that the wide receivers are going to be either a second too early, a second too late. They're going to have to extend instead of trying to bring the ball into their body. They're expecting it to be over the back shoulder, and instead it's coming, directly at them. The pass to Seth Roberts, I think he makes that catch if Derek Carr puts some heat on that ball like he normally does. He reaches up, grabs it, and brings it in. But because of the fact that it hung up there, just took a little bit too long to get to him. So again, you start to look at it and you say, okay, in order to use Derek Carr in this environment, who gives us the best chance to win, we've eliminated 65% of our running plays. We're probably eliminating 40% of our passing plays just because of the fact that in those passing plays, there are plays where you need to put some mustard on the ball. You need to put some heat on the ball, whether it's the first, second, or third read. And that then makes you very, very, it really condenses the playbook, and it forces you again, to have to be able to run the football. But we just said you can't run the football. You can't suck guys up. And so they were able to just sit back there and play, allow us to run. We weren't having any monstrous running plays. We weren't able to beat them over the top. The one play that just unluckily hit the wire, that's probably not going to happen again. So again, if the finger can heal correctly, and like I said before, we're looking at a couple of games in some very hospitable types of environments over the next couple of weeks. If that finger can heal correctly, I just think by the time we get to Denver and then by the time we get into the playoffs, those things aren't going to be a factor. Anne Killian talked about it. Well, even though this, and this were against them, they still could have tied that football game. And again, don't get me started on some of the play calls, because some of the play calls make you scratch your head too. You need 1 yard. Right? Or you need 2 yards. Why throw the fake? Some of the plays just didn't make any sense to me, but you know what? These are just my opinions, and we will just keep it at that. But in my opinion, I think that a lot is being made right now out of very little, and I'm excited to go and watch the Baltimore Ravens. Normally, I would want the Patriots to beat the Ravens, because I really want the Steelers to win the division so that we have the tiebreaker with the Ravens. But whatever. I want the Ravens tonight to beat the Patriots. And then all of a sudden, people are going to have a slightly different tune, and we'll be looking once again at Sunday to figure out exactly who's in control of this entire thing, not just the AFC West. We saw Dallas lose, right? Now everybody's, the shine is off of Dallas. We saw the Raiders lose. The shine is off the Raiders. Let Kansas City and these whatever other football teams that these people, fall in love with, let them continue to do what they're doing, and we'll see what happens as we round out this season. But again, there are 3 games to go. That is so much football at this point. If the Raiders win out, I think our chances of winning the division are really, 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 really good, because I don't think that the Chiefs can win out. But once again, that's just my opinion, just like Anne has hers and everyone has theirs. That's what we do here, throw out opinions. And for those of you that don't like it or disagree, sorry, kind of committed to making these videos, so they're going to keep on coming. So once again, I apologize. And if you guys have any questions or comments, please go ahead and send them to the w2w@gmail.com. Go ahead and hit us up on Twitter. We do have our gab.ai account. It's the W2W. Or is it W2W? No, I think it's the W2W at gab.ai. So exciting about that. And yeah, we're going to be doing some more. We're going to be working with some other people coming up here real soon. Got some real cool things that are going to be happening. You know who you are. And we'll go from there. So tomorrow we got a great show. Actually, that's probably going to be Wednesday's show. So tomorrow I'll be talking a little bit about Skip and Shannon. And then on Wednesday, we have a wonderful tribute to Dave from the Raidercast, who unfortunately passed away last week. So stay tuned, and we will see you guys tomorrow.